Welcome to the Open Mic Podcast Show with Mike Midgley.
Hey, and welcome to the Open Mic Podcast. And on today's episode, I'm excited to be building further on the subject of the inbound organization revisited. Today's influencer guest is Todd Hockenberry, the founder of Topline Results and the co-author of the inbound organization. And Todd is based out of the Sunshine State, Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the show, Todd. It's great to have you today.
Mike, it's great to be here as well. I'm really pleased to be on the show. I look forward to this discussion. And I know it's always tough to follow Dan Tyre. He's got a lot of energy, so I'm going to do my best to follow him and do a good job for you.
You will be absolutely fine. Dan blew us away on the first version. And just a real quick one, if you've not had chance to go check out Dan's podcast on the inbound organization, episode 34, you can head over to blog.thesuccessof.io, check out the podcast section, and you can pick up Dan's copy there. And Dan did an amazing job, as you said, Tori, in covering what the sort of first layer and into specific areas of the inbound organization. And for you guys out there thinking, well, hey, what am I going to learn different here? And is it still worth me sticking around? Absolutely. You will not want to miss this. In this episode, we're going to revisit the inbound organization, but we're going to go deeper into this topic so you can really learn more practical and skills to get moving with it. So absolutely. And when you think about it, for many companies, there's a number of steps needed to become an inbound organization. For us here as an HubSpot agency partner, we regularly have this conversation. And the first steps that companies, who are new to inbound, is to sell that idea around the need to change. Secondly, the methodology that's going to be involved around that, and then the wider benefits that it brings over just marketing. And we're going to pick up a quote here with Todd. And Todd, you've got a great quote when you think about the inbound organization that we chatted about off air. Just share that with the audience with us and how you came around that and a little bit of knowledge about some of the frustrations that you see around that quote. But it's an awesome one, so here it goes.
Everyone wants to grow, but no one wants to change. Dan and I, when we were working on the book, I just kind of blurted that out because I realized after 10 years or so of consulting with clients that was the biggest hurdle you had to get over, right? Everybody wants to grow their business, right? That's easy, right? The number one thing whenever I talk to a business owner, they want to do is they want to grow, right? Okay. Well, I don't want to change this. I want to keep doing things the way I was doing it. I don't want to change the way I think about my customers. I don't want to think about how I change my culture. I don't want to think about a real mission. I want to just keep doing what I want to do, right? People don't like to change. Yeah. And the reason that quote resonates with me and a lot of other people is that your buyers have changed. Again, it's a cliche. It's not even something we have to talk about a lot. We know buying has changed. So if buying has changed logically, right, you have to change too, but people still resist.
They do. And, like you said, at that little stage, nobody wants to change. People fear change, don't they? And things like that. And it's a great quote. And I suppose it just stuck. And then, everybody wants to change, but nobody, everybody wants to grow, but nobody wants to change. And it just sort of stuck. And some of the best things that I've ever done, Todd, in my career, it's just, it weren't pre-planned. Of course we put the strategy in place and we think about it. We don't just wild gamble. But some of the, the greatest things and the biggest leverages and results have come from the hip out of just an open discussion. And it sounds like that's exactly the same what happens at Dan there. It just blurted it out and then it stuck, which has become the motto, which is awesome. I love it.
Excellent. Yeah, working with Dan to write a book was an interesting process, right? He and I both think differently, but we have very similar experiences. And that's where the book came from we were both speaking at an event and we got together to have breakfast and just to catch up. I've known Dan for a lot of years and we both just started talking about what we were doing. And we both realized it was kind of an aha moment. We were like, this inbound thing isn't just marketing, it's the whole business. And we were both talking about the same thing. So that's why we decided to write the book.
Yeah. And just touching on that, you talk about a true inbound organization has the client at the center of everything that they're doing, every department. And you're right, it's not just marketing. So one of the things that as an agency, and slightly off script here, Todd, but as an agency, as feedback is that, people say, oh yeah, inbound, that's marketing, isn't it? It's like, it's a little bit more than that. It's a lot more than that. But for us, it's that challenge of how do you bring that in too early? Do you confuse them? Do you overwhelm them and things like that? But, I always try and boil it down and getting the client to the center of everything, do like on the flywheel example that HubSpot do so well and things like that. So if you are thinking about inbound guys, it ain't just marketing. You've got any questions, shoot us a message using the hashtag #TheOpenMic. Or, as we move forward, you can connect with Todd online on his website at top-line-results.com. You can go over to the Inbound Organization, and we're going to put all these sort of links on in the show notes as well. You can get Todd on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Todd Hockenberry, and that is TODDHOCKENBERRY. And again, for you guys listening, head over to the blog or look in the app. You'll see these links in the show notes, as well as there is a link to the Inbound Organization book, which we have here, hardback copy. Wiley, you can see it pitched and perched right up at the back of Todd on the shelf there. But also, the cool thing about it is if you also head over to the website of the inboundorganization.com, there's some free resources on there, and Todd's going to cover those later on, which will really get you started to supplement what's in the book. So overall, really excited to be revisiting the Inbound Organization with you, Todd, and going deeper on that. And before we do, let's just sort of get a backdrop and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your bio and your journey to date, Todd. And I always find out the podcasts, not that there's not a ton of value in the questions and a ton of value in things, but I love learning about the journeys. I know our listeners love learning about how you've arrived at the point that you've done, the highs, the lows. Share us a little bit about you Guy, and maybe how you got started with Topline Results and then into the book we've done.
Yeah, it's interesting. I after 9/11, I'd worked for an automotive supplier. I'm a chemist. My background is chemistry of all things. And I worked at an automotive supplier, and I started out in the lab, and I moved into sales and marketing. And after 9/11, I decided to change and go with a smaller company. And it was actually a turnaround. So this was very big dollar investors were buying companies. They bought this company, and they brought me in to turn it around with a couple other people in terms of leadership team. Didn't have a lot of money. This company was dead. It was an industrial company. And this was 2002, 2003. And we were using inbound principles at that time. I didn't know it wasn't called inbound yet, but we were using those ideas to attract people. We were using content. We were using email marketing. I remember sending emails out to 6,000 people and it was personalized for me. And I would get responses from them. They thought I sent them that email directly, right? That was back in the day before we were jaded by email, right? And we were using content, and we were optimizing a website early on in industrial spaces. And we grew this company, we turned it around, and we made it profitable. And that's where I really learned how to do inbound before I even knew what it was called. Yeah. So I then went to, after that I moved to Florida, and that was right in the middle of the big recession here, 2008. And I got fired. I lost my job, right? I was VP of sales at a manufacturing company, had about 50 salespeople working for me. And obviously nobody was buying anything at the time. So I found myself looking for a job, and that's when we started Topline Results. And my wife and I sat down over a weekend and said, I'm done working for other people. We're going to work for ourselves. What do we know? What do we do? And we realized my wife has an IT background. I have sales and marketing. So we together started Topline Results. And our original idea was to take the ideas that I'd learned in turning around this manufacturing company and applying them to other companies and being a consultant and advisor to other companies doing that. And very soon after we started, our second client, in fact, we kept asking them to update their website and improve their website. This is bad. We want to help you do this. And they had a cliched old webmaster that did the work for them, right? And it was $500 to change a paragraph or add a new graphic, and it took 3 weeks, and they just hated it. And they came to me and said, let's find a better way to do this. And I'd been following HubSpot. This is about 2009. I'd been following HubSpot, and I said, let's try HubSpot. And they said, this looks great, but we don't have anybody here to run this for us. Can you do it for us? So that's when we became an inbound agency.
Amazing.
And we were, I think, about the 30th agency HubSpot ever had. Wow. In early 2010. I still have that client. We still work with them. And so I've got 9.5 years of data in their HubSpot portal.
Wow.
And that's how we got into inbound marketing, because we realized that these companies, again, there was a huge disconnect between what they were producing in terms of content and how they were marketing and how they were reaching their audience and what the audience wanted, right? This is the change. The audience wanted content. They wanted to be able to find things online. They wanted to get helped by searching on their own. This is back in 2009, 2010. And in industrial world, and it's still bad in industrial world for many companies, this was groundbreaking, right? They were in a really traditional old line industry. This company, the first one we started with, was over 100 years old. but they changed. They learned how to change, and they saw the impact. So that launched us into being a HubSpot partner and really getting into this HubSpot ecosystem. And that's when I met Dan, and that's where we started, and we've been doing that ever since. And we don't do the agency stuff as much now. We're mostly consulting and advising because it's just my wife and I. We stay small. We don't want to be you, Mike. We don't want to have a big agency. So that's
there's a pressure that comes with that as well, as you know. And it feels like you've got a head in your vice sometimes. Yeah.
Well, when my wife is way smarter than I am, and she said when we first started, she said we should never have an employee. That should be like one of our business models. We should have owners and contractors. So we've lived by that since. We've never. It's my wife and I own it. We've never had an employee, and we never will.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just to touch on the top line results or ethos, you talk, I mean, for you guys, you can head over to top-line-results.com and check out more of what Todd and his team there are doing amazingly. And really like a global leader in educating and helping those B2B companies adapt the internet to sort of driven changes. But it's all about the buying behavior sort of style. And you mentioned right at the beginning about how the buyers have changed. And it is so relevant, and see, it's if people are just walking around in like zombie like. They just seem to be oblivious when you see these cold outreaches and these horrible pictures. Does anybody even connect with that? I don't know how companies keep going like that, and how it's not. I'm not on the show as the host to offend anybody, but if you're still doing that, stop doing it. It's damaging your reputation. It's not welcome anymore. And I'm sure you see a lot of that as well, Todd, don't you?
Oh, Mike, I'll offend your audience. I'll do that for you if you want me to. I had an example. This happened to me yesterday. I got a phone call, and I picked up the phone, right? So you got me. I'm on the phone with you. So you cold called me, and I'm talking to you. And it was somebody who wanted to do lead gen for my business. And I said, look, it was about LinkedIn. It was about doing lead gen using LinkedIn. I said, look, I do it myself. I generate leads myself. I said, the only way I'm going to consider talking to you is if you send me proof that you can do something better than I am, which would be a case study, testimonials, show me some value that you bring. And his answer was, well, it doesn't sound like we're going to be a good fit. And I was like, oh my goodness, I just told you what I want and you can't. It's like I was listening, and you are absolutely right. People say, oh, well, everybody knows customers have changed. And this is the test is that. Look at the way people market to you today and tell me that you think most people have changed. And I would say they haven't. That everybody wants to grow, right? People still use the technologies and connection tools like LinkedIn. It's a hammer, right? I'm going to pound you and pound you and pound you. How is that any different than a TV commercial or a call center that just dials for dollars or any of the other amazing history of interruptive marketing? It's no different. You're doing the same thing, right? So I maintain that most companies haven't fundamentally changed the way they think about marketing, the way they think about their company, and ultimately think about their business, because the proof is not there. I don't see it.
I don't see it. You look out of that window or into that screen every day and you just see that people spewing all over you with me. Here's a quick thing. I got to totally off script here, Todd, but we've got this thing in the office. When we get an email or it's rare we get the old direct mail pieces these days, but we've got an email and we call it the we diarrhea test. And it's how many times we do this. We have been in businesses. We. It's like, I don't know, what about me? How are you serving me? And you spot it. And then I give them a score, and depends on how many times I have to circle we, I give them a score out of 10. And sometimes it's 15 out of 10 because it's just we all the time. And they're crazy about how they're doing it. And it is sickening, really, because, the education is out there. The tools are out there. You can head over to HubSpot Academy, and it's totally free. There's all the learning in the world in there if you prepare to put the hours in and understand it and work with an agency, Todd, or whatever it would be, so it's there. You just got to want to do it. And I think it goes back to what you're saying about not wanting to change.
It's lazy. It's lazy, Mike. People are lazy. It's easy to create a we email, like you said, and send it to 10,000 people and hit go and, hey, maybe I'll get something. Yeah. But maybe you're going to annoy most of those people, and you are. And again, I say this to CEOs. Marketing folks, I think, understand this more than senior leaders. And I talk to a lot of CEOs and VPs and division heads. And I ask them, I say, shop yourself. Look at your own marketing. Would you like to be talked to like that? Or would you like to be reached like that? And when they do that, a lot of times they go, oh, no, I don't like that. No. So
that's a great piece of advice. It just I always ask if there's something profound, Todd, let's just back this up 2 steps. If you're in the car, pull over. Todd, just cover that again for me. If you're the CEO, go look at just cover that for the audience because that is awesome. Please cover that again.
Yeah, CEOs, business leaders often think of marketing kind of as a sideline, right? But that is your business. Your marketing department should know who you are, who you help the most, how you help them, what they need, and it should be reflected in your marketing and your messaging. So shop yourself. Go look at your website, right? I do this a lot on discovery calls. I'll be on with a business owner. I'll say, let's pull up your website. And I'll look at it. And it's like you said, it's we are this, we do that, we do that. I said, you know what? Nobody really cares about that. Where's your customer? Who do you help? Who do you help them? How do you help them? How do you make their life better? How do you make their life different? What problems do you solve? And more often than not, people are still focused on product. So CEOs, business leaders, business owners out there, look at your own marketing and see if you are actually talking about the customer first and about their issues and about how you help them and what difference you make in their life, because that's all that matters. Yeah. I can tell you this, they don't give, I don't know if you like to swear on the show, but I won't swear, but put in whatever word you like there. Yeah. They don't care at all about you, right? No. I deal with a lot of manufacturers, and I'll look at their marketing materials, and it'll show a nice picture of their factory or their machines. It's like, who cares? Nobody cares about that. Yeah. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, right? It's what do you do with it? How do you make their life better? Again, it's a simple thing. The only reason I keep pounding on this is that I talk to CEOs and business owners so often that they don't think this way. They think it's product. They think, oh, our product or service is so amazing, people are just going to flock to it, right? It's like, no, they're not, right? No, they're not. You have competition, and if you think you're the best, you're probably not.
Yeah, that's it. And it's an ego saying, oh, yeah. I did a podcast a while ago, and I was talking about the situation where the business owner says, yeah, we're the best at what we do, and we're conscientious and we care, and that's their sort of default robotic pitch out in the world. But you know what? When they go home and they put the pillow on the head on the pillow at the night, and what's keeping them awake at night is, customer service stats are down, this down, that down, the other, and the like, living a lie to a degree. That believe that that's the case, because I don't know whether it's fearful of changing or they just don't know how to change. But I know for a while I've had people come up to me and said, Mike, I heard that podcast and that's exactly me. I get my sales team to say this. I go on to the network events, I say that, but I'm that person with my head on the pillar who say my customer service ain't great, my marketing ain't great, my service ain't great, my finances are all over the place. And he says, you absolutely woke me up, thank you. And I went, great, let's help, you know what I mean? And it's fine. But that's just one line out of the podcast that resonates with somebody. And you see it all the time when they're claiming, but they're deep down, they know it's not the case.
Well, you get stuck in your own world, right? You have to deal with your own people. You have to deal with your own processes. You have to engineer, design, and manufacture a product, or you have to build a service offering, right? So that's where you get focused. You get focused inside. The second thing I advise business owners to do is go talk to your customers, right? Definitely. Don't rely on hearsay through your sales team or your customer service. Go talk to them yourselves. Yeah. And ask them about the experience they have working with your company. Don't ask them about the product. Ask them how easy it is to do business with you. Do you like talking to your people on the phone, or your email communications clear? Do you waste my time, or do you make my life easy? Ask them about it and really understand how you impact their world from their point of view.
Yeah.
And that alone, if leadership in the company starts to do that, then what's going to happen is by default, you're going to start to put the customer more at the center of your thinking.
Yeah.
If your priorities and your focus is on making, hitting a certain number or hitting a quarterly goal, or your team is the key thing, or your boss has a huge ego, so you're trying to make that person happy all the time, that's all distracting and pulling away from your customer.
Yeah.
And your measures, your metrics, what you measure internally, how you measure success, it should be from the customer's perspective, not from your perspective.
Yeah, that's great. Love it.
I'll just throw this little story in here. I was talking to a client yesterday, and they were talking about the velocity of their deals. They were looking at the time that it took to go from first touch to close, and they were just relentlessly pounding on their sales team to reduce that number. Yeah. And so that it all became about how fast I can get these deals to happen. And I pushed back on them. I said, well, how does that relate to the customer? Yeah. What if their buying process requires them to have 4 months between first touch because they got to go through a certain decision process, or they're not going to react quickly. They want to take their time and evaluate. They got to bring all the stakeholders in. How does that work when you're trying to cut it in half, right? If your internal metric says cut that in half, then you're just going to be pounding on them, and you're going to turn them off. Yeah. So again, that's how metrics sometimes can lead you down a wrong path, because you're measuring something you want, not what they want.
Yeah, which is you're on the sales journey or the sales cycle, not the buyer's journey, which is absolutely right.
That's exactly right. Very well said, Mike.
Yeah,
that's
you
right.
see it all the time. And if you're running a sales process, we've all got a sales process, guys. Don't get me wrong, but if you're running that sales process at the expense of your customer experience, it's a good chance that you're going to be out. Well, you are already outdated. It's just how fast it catches up with you. But that's awesome. I really appreciate that insight, Todd. So, you can see the experience what Todd's got there, really helping business owners and leaders understand that mission matters, culture is the destiny, and the way that the prospects and customers want you to market, sell, and service is changing. Most importantly, what are you going to do about it? Ultimately, that's the situation, and what to do about it, how to get started, how to put that client at the center. And that's what the inbound organization is all about. So, Todd, I really appreciate that background. And some tough times in the financial periods. We lost our wheeled asset finance company. We were a finance company in the time when the world went bust. We managed to do a turnaround for 4 years and try to do a Series B, but just couldn't get it over the line. And we ended up losing it in 2012. And at the time, I was like a 12 million sterling business. So, rough calculations at that time on dollar rate, nearly $20 million business we lost. And it was some tough times out there. And I think that was a big wake-up call for me, because ultimately, coming out of the 90s and into the noughties, and the way things were doing, and money was in abundance and everything was going great, and we're all thinking, will it ever end? And and then suddenly, like, hey, the world's actually gone bust. And if you some of the younger audience who's not quite understanding what I'm saying, literally the banks went bust, banks went out of business in the US and in the UK. The governments were holding up, the treasuries were holding up the banks with quantitative easing and billions of pounds and dollars to stop the rest of them going, the rest of the banks to go bust. And literally it did. And for me, the mirror of the social media, the client taking back control, the world's going bust. I just think it's I think we'll look back in 20 or 30 years time and think, God, was it really that bad? I think we're still not shell shocked by it, but I don't quite really think we understand the severity of what actually happened in 08, 09, 10, 11, 12. And probably didn't start breaking till 13 or 14 fully. And I remember here in the UK, I think the longest recession we'd ever had was about 18 months. 2008 comes around, thinking, yes, okay, we'll ride that out. And then by 2010 and 11 and 12, it's still going. And you're thinking, like, oh my God. So, I'm not quite sure the banks are on warning just yet, but there is early talk about, is there going to be another recession coming around? So this is why you need to change. This is why you need to be on inbound organization and get yourself set up. And without further ado, let's tap into that amazing mind, Todd, and let's learn a little bit more. So in today's modern business, in your own words, why does the mission matter?
Well, the mission matters because it sets the agenda and sets the direction for everyone in the organization. And if everyone's not pointed in the right direction and pointed in the same way, and thinking that their job and what they're there for is all aligned, then you're not going to be able to deliver the kind of experience modern buyers want. And I've been fortunate I taught a class at the university here in the spring. I'm going to do it again in the fall, and it was Intro to Sales. And so it was wonderful to speak with and be around really smart young people. And one of the things that became very clear to me as I talked to them, and it was that they really care about the mission of the companies that they're thinking about working for. Not only who they buy from, but certainly who they work for. So it's a buyer's market, or it's a seller's market for labor, right? For talented people now. So the labor market in the U.S. is extremely tight. So they have their pick of jobs. So who are they going to pick? Are they going to pick a company that's got a forward-thinking mission that gives them some purpose, or are they going to pick one that's here to just sell product? Mm-hmm. So it matters for certainly recruiting and for your employees, but it certainly matters for your customers, right? If you're just, again, thinking about product or thinking about process, or again, this is another one of my tests for CEOs. I was in a meeting with about 40 people. We were doing a workshop, and the CEO was in the meeting, and it was all the marketing and sales team and customer service were in this, it was a workshop. And I asked them, I said, who knows your company's mission? And out of 40 people, one person put their hand up. It was the CEO. And I was like, there you go. I don't even need to know what your mission is. It doesn't even matter. If only the CEO knows it, then it's not relevant. So what happens if you don't have a mission that you can point to? What do all those people default to? They're going to default to whether it's their personal goals or their team goals, or they're not going to be pulling in the same or pushing in the same direction. So this is where you get situations where maybe the marketing department promises one thing in the content or the website or in their experience, and then they get to sales and all of a sudden they get the hard sell. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Or they promise great, the sales and marketing process is wonderful, but then when it comes to onboarding or starting up, they can't find them. It's disorganized, right? There's this disconnect, right? So the mission, it needs to be customer focused, obviously. And I would challenge CEOs, business owners, people that are responsible for creating a mission to think about their mission in a few ways. First of all, is it accurate? If you read your mission statement, and I'm not talking about the one that's on the wall in the office that nobody pays attention. What are you really all about, right? Is it accurate? You have to be really ruthless about seeing, is this accurate? Do you actually do what you say you do in your mission? Number one. It has to be pretty simple and straightforward. It can't be 3-4 paragraphs. This is one sentence that encapsulates who you are, who you help, and how you help them. It also needs to be distinct, which means could any other company use that mission and to describe them? If that's the case, then you're not unique.
Yeah.
And it also has to have a little bit of future resistance to it, meaning that it's going to have to be relevant for over a period of time. I would say typically at least 3 to 5 years it needs to be relevant so it can guide you in a strategic way. And ultimately needs to be inspiring. Your people, your everybody in your ecosystem, your partners, your customers, your employees, certainly, it needs to be something they rally around where we all want to make a difference in other people's lives. We really do. And if you can tie your mission to what people do day in, day out, now what may seemingly be a kind of a back office job. What if you could tie your finance and your accounting team to your mission of helping a customer and creating a very easy, positive experience, right? That transforms a department that's really a back office kind of function. They have a huge role in how well you do with customers and create an experience. So again, I think mission is critical. And I think it's one area that startups tend to understand better because they're kind of typically mission oriented to begin with. But I think it's harder for old line companies that have been around a while because they're saying, well, we're successful already. We're already doing this. We've got all these customers. We've been around for a couple decades and we're doing fine. But the mission is really critical to really align everybody around those goals and to say, this is who we are. And what's also really important about that is it also says this is who we're not.
Yeah.
We're not going to do these things. We're not everything to everybody. We are this, right? And we're going to be great at this. So I think missions often underlooked. Underlooked, is that a word? Overlooked. It's underappreciated, and it's really critical.
Yeah, and foundational, isn't it? It's the foundations in the ground, and you move on to why culture destiny. So why is culture destiny for businesses today? It builds on that mission, doesn't it? That's going to create that culture. Tell us a little bit more about that culture destiny, Todd.
Yeah, Peter Drucker had a great quote. It said, his quote was, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And I love that because if your culture is one of internal focus or it's politically oriented or bureaucratic or it's CYA or it's whatever focused, that's going to, if you come in with a strategy that says, hey, we're going to deliver this great customer experience, but you've got all these processes and procedures that override that. If you don't get those out of the way, it's going to eat that strategy for breakfast.
It is. Absolutely.
And culture is really your environment, and it's all the kind of things that go around with working in your world, right? Is it a trusting environment? Is there transparency and accountability? How do you work with teams? Is it a culture of fear, or is it a culture of risk taking? Is it an environment where people can do their best work, or they're just hoping to keep their jobs? Are people built up? Are they educated? Are they growing as human beings and being able to tie into that mission and see their role in it?
It's helping them as well, isn't it? Develop themselves to contribute to that culture and to create that experience. Like you say, whether it's in the back office in finance, where they're still taking customer calls, they still have to have that professional sort of play and deliver that same promise that was done in the first marketing message. And I think a lot of people miss that, don't they?
They do. And the culture is hard to define, and it's not something you can just sit down in one meeting and say, we're going to have this culture today. It doesn't work that way. It's something that's always tended and improved and monitored. And I know we talked about HubSpot. I know they've been talking a lot about the service module and things like voice of the customer and getting customer satisfaction.
Not yet.
But it's the same idea for internal, right? You've got to have regular connections between the leadership and the employees and know how they see the culture. It's very similar to what I said about leaders getting out of the office and talking to customers. They have to do the same with employees, right? They can't just say, well, I think the culture's this. They've got to hear it from the perspective of the people that are in it and living it every day. Yeah. And the end result is, if you want to deliver a great customer experience and you want to be inbound in the way you should be, then if you don't have a culture that builds that up or that encourages that or allows it, then you won't deliver it.
Yeah. It's false, isn't it? It's artificial. It's superficial if you're saying it, but you don't have it to deliver.
Exactly. Right. If your goal is to say, we're going to take care of our customers and create this great experience and solve these problems, but then you manage to, like I mentioned before about the sales cycle timing, right? That's not really helping. That's a bad culture. Your culture's counter to what you're saying, right? So your culture has to align with your mission. If your mission is to help customers do these things, solve these problems, you have to create a culture that allows that to happen.
Absolutely.
And culture is, again, so important because, again, in a tight labor market and where there's skills gaps in places, your culture was what's going to attract people to you. Again, gone are the days. I got my first job by reading the newspaper and looking in the back for ads, right? So those days are gone. What's going to happen is if your culture is toxic, it's going to be on Glassdoor. It's going to be in reviews. It's going to be known. And so the people that you want to recruit are going to be repelled by your culture. Whereas a culture that's really positive, that's building people up, your own people will attract the best people to you, right? You'll be able to recruit at a much higher level because they'll attract people to you because your culture is one that's so positive that people want to be a part of.
It's something that Skip Miller talks about in the sales process, where he talks about the transfer of ownership. And but I'm referencing that as an example. It's where you are trying to get the best talent, but then that transfer of ownership comes. But because you're a great company to work for, you've got these great things, the reviews, people then want to work for you, and it's a lot easier. You get, sometimes, I'm not saying it's about, beating the employee down for a lower salary or anything, but, you get the best talent at the best rates. And sometimes I know people who work for companies who said, hey, well, one of my friends, works at Microsoft, used to work at Dell, take a little bit less money at one of them to get a better culture and a better environment, and it's like, whoa, it's all about that. So, you've got to think about that, about how you're publicly portrayed. And too many business owners I see, Todd, they're just looking inside the four walls, wear this, wear that, or we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And they often forget to take a step outside, breathe the oxygen, and actually see what's actually emitting out of that building and what that public antenna is promoting. And sometimes it's not always what they think it is, like you said. And it's CEO blindness or management team blindness. And, my old non-exec used to say to me, my companies rot from the top. He says, they always rot from the top, and
That's right.
It's a great thing. So on that point, talk to me a little bit more about mindset, and what's required for growth.
Yeah, well, clearly the customer's got to come first in everything that you do. And it's easy to say, but it can be hard to do. And so that's number one. You've got to sit down and say, hey, look, we're here for the customer and the customer alone. We're not here to make our engineering team happy, or we're not here because we have this factory or we have this office full of people. We're here for the customer. So number one, it's easy to say, it's hard to do. So number one, customer's got to go first. The customer experience, like we're talking about, that is the key differentiation for your company moving forward. Very hard to differentiate based on product or features or a service offering. Again, you can do unique positioning based on those things, but in terms of differentiating, very hard to do because of the fact that people at the palm of their hands and their phone can reach so many options and so many alternatives. Very, very difficult to do. But a customer experience that's unique and different that you create, that is a key differentiator because you can defend it, you can build on it, and it's not something you can fake. So customer experience is becoming the key differentiation for most businesses. That's number two. And then number three is, again, it's the idea of the inbound organization, that it's everybody. Every person in the organization either adds to or takes away from that experience. No exceptions. Nobody's told me an employee yet in a company or a role that doesn't impact it in some way.
Yeah.
I
love that. The employees either add to or take away. That's amazing. Brilliant.
Yeah. Think about your legal department. Do they make it easy to do business with you, or do they make it hard? I've had people say to me, "Oh, well, what about our maintenance crew or people that take care of our offices?" I said, "Well, do you ever have a visitor? What about your employees, right? Do you make them work in a dirty environment? I mean, that's going to have an impact, right?" So everybody has an impact, and everybody should be evaluating their work on whether they're making the experience better for their customer or they're making it hard. Or am I in the way of a good experience, or am I making a good experience for customers? Those are the three key things. And it starts with leadership, like we talked about at the beginning. Leadership has to recognize that they need to change.
Yeah, that's it. And, once you get past that, and then usually I find when you open up and leaders open up, say, hey, we're in a little bit of a hole, or we're going on this path, can we have your input in there? And, they're open. People want to help, don't they? People want to change it. There's a lot of good ideas. I remember when I was in our public traded company, I used to take time out with Doreen, our cleaner. She was mid-40s. And, I used to take time out to speak to Doreen every single day. I was the CEO, she's the cleaner. Who gives a monkeys about title? That's not what it's about. But I used to sit down and I'll say, hey, Doreen, let's take 5, let's get a cup of tea. She's, no, I've got to finish all the work, so don't worry about that. What are you seeing on the floor? What's happening? What's in the waste bins? All that type of stuff. Yeah,
I love it.
And I'm telling you what, I got more intel. This has been disrespectful to my management team. So there's a bit of tongue in cheek here, guys. I got more value out of speaking to Doreen about what would really happen than I did out of my middle management. But joking aside, what's in the waste bins? What's on the notepads? What's going off? And it was really, really interesting. So mindset is about it all. That's awesome. Here's a funny one that people might not want to sort of get straight away. So let's break this down. Question is, why is marketing to your customers the best place to look for growth? Because surely people said, hey, Mike, you got to market your customers, you've got to grow. So just explain a little bit more about that, Todd. What do you mean about that and the importance around it?
Well, the idea is, we've all heard the cliche. It's 7 times more expensive to get a new customer than to keep another one, right? And we know that's true. It might be 20 times, it might be 3 times, depends on your industry, but it's some multiple, right? But when we think of growth, almost universally, I hear, oh, well, we've got to do these new marketing initiatives. We've got to spend money on this ad campaign. We got to do this. We got to do that. And I said, well, are you taking the ideas of inbound marketing and applying them to your existing customers? Yeah. And I hear crickets, nothing, quiet, right? Well, and in some cases, it's like, well, we have a service department. When they need us, they call us. It's like, oh, yeah. The idea is that you've already done the work. They've already said, we like you. We want to work with you. So you should be thinking about how you can use content, use these inbound marketing ideas to educate, continue to engage with, and stay close to your customers. Yep. You can not only find out, again, in terms of customer satisfaction, voice of the customer, however you want to define that, right? You want feedback from them on how you're doing in an ongoing way, but you can also find out what's going on in the marketplace. You should be talking to them and understanding other ways you can help them. Other ways you might be able to solve problems for them. So that should be driving things like your product development or your service offerings based on what their needs are. Plus the fact that they've already, and again, it's a very human thing, right? If I've already given you money, I'm much more likely to give you more money. Yep. The first one's the hardest one, right? To get over that hump to get the first sale. The next sales get easier, right? So in my business, I don't think of the first sale, the one I can get today. I think of like the one 2 years down the road. Like, what can I be helping them do 2 years from now? And then I work backwards from it. Most people start with today and say, okay, I'm going to try to get this sale, get this one. And they don't think about where they're going to be in 2 years or 3 years with that client. Think about where you're going to be in 2 or 3 years with that client, and think about the steps you need to take to get there. Yeah. And what'll happen is you'll be adding value, because in my students, my class, I teach them about value and relationships. And relationships are based on value. I hate to burst your bubble. It's not based on your winning personality. It's not based on your jokes or how nice a person you are. If you cease to deliver value for your customers, I promise you, you will not have a relationship.
Yeah.
It's based on value. So you need to increase the value and have an ongoing relationship that's based on that value, that's growing and maturing and expanding based on their needs. And that's the best place to look for growth, because it's the lowest cost growth. It's the most defensible in terms of competition. And it's also the most impactful to your business, because the more you grow with your customers, the better you get at doing it. The more you know them, the more you understand their world, you get better at doing it. So instead of just kind of going over and over and new business, I'm looking for ways to help my clients grow with their existing customers. Again, it's more defensible. If the recession comes, it will someday. You can defend those customers and keep them when the low-cost alternative comes in and the cheaper people come in to try to take your business. You'll have a much more defensible position if you've done that, where you've thought about the future value you can deliver and you plan on getting there.
Yeah, and they become advocates, don't they, at the end of the day? And then they become a sound horn to bring more clients, and they refer, and there's all that sort of, low cost sort of, well, it's free real cost. And it's very rare that people say, you've got to deal with these guys. They're awesome. They look after me. They do this. They even sent me a card. They did this, that, and the other. You sat there thinking like, wow, I'd be crazy to go and potentially deal with somebody else. So absolutely love it. And
correct.
This is one of my favorite sort of questions, Todd. And for you guys listening on the car, and for all you car dealers and automotive dealers out there, I apologize in advance. I don't quite know what's coming, but I'm going to go with it. So, Todd, we talk about experience being everything. So why do you hate your car dealer?
Well, I love my car. So that's the first thing. But I hate my car dealer because there seems to be this formula that they've adopted once you buy a car. At about the 3-year mark, at least here in the States, at the 3-year mark, you get a call, you get a phone call, you get an email, you get a letter in the mail. It says, we have high demand for your car model, and we'd love to have you come in and get a quote. We have it's like, you just want to churn me, right? You just want to get me in a new car. It's not about me, right? So I start telling them, I say, I'm a buy and hold guy, right? I just told them who I was in my persona, right? I'm a buy and hold guy. I keep my cars. The last one I drove 250,000 miles, right? I keep them for a long time. I'm not selling this car. Okay, great. A month later, they call, same thing. Hey, we have high demand for your car. I said, guys, I told you I'm not selling this car. Next month, same thing. Next month, same thing. And in the meantime, I'm getting emails and cards in the mail. I finally said, look, guys, do you have a CRM, right? They said, yeah, we have a CRM. I said, okay, put a note in there that says, I'm not going to sell this car. Don't call me again. I said, if you call me again, I'm never coming back to your dealer again. And I'm going to give you bad reviews and tell everybody you're annoying me with your marketing. So sure enough, a month later, they called me. I said, that's it. I'm done. And I told them, I said, are you recording this? And they always said, yeah, we record this for quality purposes, which is BS too. It's for cover their butts. But anyway, so 10 minutes later, the manager calls and said, oh, I'm really sorry we annoyed you. I'm going to give you a $50 gift certificate for your next service. I said, you didn't hear me. I'm never coming back. Ever. So I go to a new car dealer and I'm taking my car in for service. And I'm sitting there because I'm working. It was a nice quiet time. I could work in the lobby. And this young lady walks over to me and says, Mr. Hockenberry. And I said, yes. And she said, there's a high demand for your model. I would love to take you over to my manager here and get a quote for your vehicle. I said, no. I said, I don't sell my car. And to this day at the new dealer, I've just given up. They call me, they send me, and every time I go there, they ask me the same question. And the reason I hate it, not only because it's annoying, number one, it's because they're not listening. Yeah. They're not listening to me. Number two, they're not offering me any other pathway to value other than I'm going to sell you a new car. Yeah. What if they said, oh, you buy and hold your cars for a long time. Mr. Hockenberry, we have a guy over here, Bob. He is an expert at keeping cars on the road for hundreds of thousands of miles. He's been here 20 years. He knows everything. He's going to be your guy. If you have any questions, you call him. And by the way, if you sign a 3-year contract with us, we'll provide all your service as part of this deal. And you commit to being here, and we'll be partners in making sure we keep that car on the road. Would you be interested in that, Mr. Hockenberry? And I'd be like, heck yeah.
It's like, hallelujah. Brilliant.
And there's no capacity in this organization to take that feedback from me and turn it back around into value that I might want. Yeah. So that's why I hate my car.
And it's a relevant story. You hear it all the time. And whether it's the car dealer, it's the photocopy company, it's the telephone guy, it doesn't really matter. But it's a great example. And, if you're out there listening, as a CEO or as an MD of sales, go and sit in the sales floor, see how your team are doing that, see how they're listening. Look at the last call, look at the previous call. Are they missing some tricks there? Go do that. But Todd, the value there is amazing. We've learned so much more about keeping the customer central, building on the mission, getting those customers, getting the team involved around there, getting that mindset right. And you know, one of the biggest things I've taken out of this, Todd, it may be the smallest thing, it may be so irrelevant, but do what you say you're going to do. You know, don't go there saying this and then go and do that. And like you say, it drops off a cliff. We know when it hits the sales team or whatever. You know, make sure you've got that continuity. And HubSpot have the, you know, closed loop reporting sort of feature that really allows you to make sure that marketing into sales, sales into marketing, working as a combined team. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out Todd, top-line-results.com. We'll get those links posted below. Todd, the value you've provided, mate, was absolutely off the chart. Thank you very much indeed. Just recapping as we close out, top 3 things. You know, we've got a business owner here, a senior leader, decision maker, CEO, whatever, and he's thinking, okay, where do I get started? I've got my pen. What's the top 3 things that they should be working on right now to get this going?
Check your mission. Make sure you have a mission that's centered on your customer and that it's something that's actionable and usable that makes a difference for your employees.
Yeah.
Second, look at your culture. It's not, your culture is not what you think it is. It's what the people that are in it think it is.
Yeah.
So document it, understand it, and be open to changing it. And being, when you hear critical comments, don't attack the people that are saying them. Listen for the valuable feedback that is, and create a culture that your employees and your ecosystem and everybody that works with you would love to be part of. Third, don't overlook your customers as a place to grow. Yeah. Make sure you are creating content, campaigns, and value for your customers at a very high level, at least as much, and invest at least as much in taking care of your existing customers from a marketing perspective that you do going after new ones. Those would be my 3 tips for today.
Todd, they're absolutely amazing. So get that mission right, guys. Get that culture right. And then, like I say, don't overlook your customers. So real good, simple stuff. As I say, highly recommend you head over to Amazon. We will put the link below for those watching on the video blog. We've got the Inbound Organization. It's actually part of 4 books. There's the Inbound Sales, Brian Signorelli. There's Inbound PR with Ileana Steriva, and then Inbound Marketing, of course, as well, with Justin Champion. So there's a great 4 set here. For all our HubSpot agency customers, we actually give them a set of these books, so you guys will be familiar with that. If you're not, go out and get them on Amazon. We'll put the link below. Todd, absolutely amazing value. Thank you so much. And I'm jealous because you live in Orlando as well, so we're just over the hill from the theme parks for plenty of fun. So thanks for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Mike, thank you as well. It was a pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure. So whatever you're doing this week, whatever initiatives you've got, start thinking about your customers. We really appreciate you tuning into this episode and continuing your growth engine development. As always, get in the game, go to the hustle, go make it happen, and we're going to see you on the next Open Mic podcast real soon.
You have been listening to The Open Mic, brought to you by The Success Hub. To find out more and to get the resources we have mentioned in this podcast episode, simply visit blog.thesuccesshub.io and view the podcast section. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to catching up with you in our next episode. This podcast and associated materials is published under copyright to The Success Hub. All rights reserved. No reproduction of this material is permitted.